we're at the very keen edge of change in our ecosystem, and I can either harness it or I can be afraid of it. And I choose to be intentional with how we leverage change for the future.
Welcome to Driving Growth, the go-to-market podcast for traditional B2B businesses that are looking to build systems to create predictable revenue. In short, turning their company into a revenue factory. I'm your host, Steve Whittington, and president of Roadmap, an agency that builds go-to-market systems. On today's show, Sam Jenkins, a technology leader, entrepreneur, and innovator with over 25 years experience in the digital industry. He is the managing partner of Punchcard Systems and the chief executive officer and co-founder of Standard Field Systems, a cutting-edge software platform for law enforcement. Sam is going to talk about his passion for digital transformation and the journey they are on and how they are driving growth for their organization. Sam has too many awards to mention, including Top 40 Under 40. Really excited to have him on the show. Sam, welcome to the show. Great to have you on Driving Growth. Really excited to hear your insights with your two organizations and the stages that you're in. And I'd like you to walk us through your journey. You've spent years building a service base and tech companies. And then along the way, we'll sort of unpack some of the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, I'd love to walk through that. So my journey as entrepreneur has only been in this latter half of my career, but generally I've always been somewhat obsessed with the intersection of technology, creativity, service, innovation. I started out my career in the technology space. I've worked for a number of startups along my career, and really it was always about being hands-on. I think that's one of my superpowers is like many entrepreneurs, I can figure things out. And that's both a benefit and probably sometimes a curse. That experience evolved into being one of the co-founders for Startup Edmonton, which is now Edmonton Unlimited. We started another company around that same time called Wellnext, which was an analytics platform for workplace health and wellness. And eventually that brought us to building Punchcard Systems. And really along the way, I've realized that my passion isn't necessarily about building companies, although that is an output. My passion is really around building teams and helping people do really great work. And that's what drives me on a day-to-day basis here as we continue to scale Punchcard and as we build more organizations like Standard Field Systems.
Right. So you've got this background, and a couple of one of those organizations was kind of software as a service, correct? And then you've got a tech service firm.
That's right.
And when you look at that, so what are the key differences between the two that you see, and the different challenges you have with growing the business from a revenue perspective?
Well, because there really are different systems in both of those businesses. Punchcard is a professional services business. Fundamentally, even though our output is software, the way we engage with our clients is very much relationship oriented. Our growth systems are really oriented around building those new relationships and being able to build on top of them to build long-standing, sustainable relationships in terms of the work that we do. Standard Field, on the other hand, is a product, and we're using product-led growth to be able to drive the success of that organization. However, I would say there's an intersection between those two businesses when I'm thinking about our growth strategy, and that has a lot to do with IP. The benefit of Punchcard is that we spend a lot of time solving problems. We spend all of our time solving problems for the people that we serve. And through that problem solving, that means we encounter so many novel opportunities to be able to create reproducible value. And we've built that into our long-term strategy as an organization. Over time, the services that we deliver through Punchcard, we're hoping to create higher degrees of sustainability by taking our IP and making it reproducible. Standard Field is an example of that, and we have a handful of other opportunities that we are working on as a team to be able to do the same thing in other verticals and other markets. As we create these new IP ventures, like Standard Field, our goal is to create the next generation of CEOs, chief product officers, chief technology officers, the next generation of leaders in these tech organizations. It's also driving sustainability for the organization. As a business owner, selling a service and going back to the well to sell that service time and time again, it can be exhausting. And so we're trying to lean out, I guess, of founder-led sales into something, a little bit more sustainable.
So what are you doing to, one, get out of founder-led sales? So what are the systems that you're putting in place to do that? And then two, amplify, I'm going to say, expansion of growth out of your existing accounts. And then I know the other thing is you're extracting IP, which then you can spin off into other opportunities.
The nature of founder-led sales is that it's not predictable. And so now as we're leaning into a more focused go-to-market strategy, it's really around specialization. It's about introducing playbooks to make sure that we can understand what to do and when. It's about aligning our team. It's about building more roles that have a baseline of understanding so that they can operate even when we're not in the room. It's about productizing our services so that we can turn our expertise, which is vast, into a set of systems. And that changes absolutely everything.
Good stuff. So I want to, again, pull a couple things out of your comments there. So you said that you're turning your services into products, which is really, really critical for service-based firms to get to that mindset. It's like we're not doing customized services that are driven by clients coming and telling us what they think they need. It's more like, hey, we've got a suite of services that are products that as we really understand our ideal clients, that they will fit into our suite of products, service products. And so, yeah, talk about that. Talk about what you feel that is.
Sure. So part of our strategy as a firm, as we enter into this kind of new chapter as an organization, is that we've decided very consciously, right? So we're designing with intent here to be able to focus on long-term sustainability and growth by investing in some new systems and some new patterns. So, for example, one of the steps that we've taken very, very recently is we've brought on a new head of growth and revenue operations. Right. He's been on board now for just over 4 weeks, so brand new. And I'm having to do a bunch of work as a founder, as a leader in this organization to make sure that I'm onboarding them properly, but also making sure that I understand what my role is going to be for this new version of our organization. It is about building a longer or a more sustainable revenue engine, though. It is exciting, right? As an owner in the business, I'm excited by it because this is how we can create some safety for the organization and for the people here at Punchcard. It also means that we're learning some new skills. I'm learning some new skills as well, and it's giving us this drive to grow with a very specific intention. We are doing these small steps to be able to build a revenue engine that is very, very predictable. Now, it may be uncomfortable for the next little while, and it's an investment. We're investing in people, in processes, in tools to be able to make this possible, and that's where the intent comes into play. It's not accidental, but through that discomfort, I think we can create a ton of value for our organization.
So, with that, you've got a head of growth. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about like the funnel, and I've talked about the bow tie funnel, so you've got the acquisition side and you've got the retention and expansion side. And you've got all these years of business, 9 years of business in which you've built up all these relationships and all these clients. And so now you're resourcing the acquisition side, which is great. And you're going to put more processes in place and get volume metrics and conversion rates, all that sort of stuff in place so you can systemize that. Mm-hmm. What are you doing on the other side of the bow tie, right? Like, so how are you systemizing your account management, your account retention, your account expansion? Because that is often under-resourced, and there's a ton of value in that side of the bow tie.
Yeah, so when I think about that side of the bow tie in terms of our, we call it delivery at Punchcard, there are some key patterns and competencies that I think help us drive growth. Of course, client onboarding is a quintessential area that ends up being ignored, but is so valuable. just like employee onboarding, to be quite honest, right? And so focusing on systems and processes to make sure that our customers are onboarded properly and the relationships are maintained properly, both through that onboarding process into delivery and into support and long term. Our delivery systems, because we're an agile organization, and the way that we deliver our services to our clients, we typically roll into fixed duration sprints. We have to be very focused on ensuring that our customers can see the value that we're delivering every step along the way. And so our delivery processes are, in fact, a sales process, because every time we are showing value, it's an opportunity for us to be able to work with our clients to be able to secure the next project or the next advancement for their organization.
Right. So you focus on, you said client onboarding first. And so, there you'd be looking at how do we shorten the time to value as you get them onboarded and you just get into the project, it's agile. So how do we shorten the time to value? So the shorter the time to value, the higher the client satisfaction. So you're focused on that. And then the other thing you didn't say is, but I'm sort of framing the words here, is what I pulled out of it as I'm listening is your leaders of the delivery are focused on creating impact, and you're selling impact. And then of course that leads into, as you gain impact, that adds into the sales cycle.
Absolutely.
So how is that, unpack how that's working? So as you're doing this delivery, you're getting great results, you're creating impact for the client, and it's on an agile methodology. So then does it naturally just, you see like there's a flip into additional, now you've got more stuff in the pipeline as a result of impactful delivery?
So I think what's really fascinating when you're talking about impact, I lead through a philosophy that we call outputs versus outcomes. Now, outputs are what we build. And we build a lot of things, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're a technical organization that creates value through delivery. But our customers aren't necessarily paying us to write code. They're paying us to be able to achieve an outcome.
Right.
And the outcomes that we're focused on are largely around impact. Fundamentally, every time we build a sprint with a client, part of our understanding of success is, have we defined an outcome and have we met that outcome at the end of the sprint? And that's a shared outcome. That's shared between our team and our customer's team or our client's team. If it is unknown, that means we are not doing our job. It means that we are not spending the time understanding what matters to our customers. We are not spending the time understanding the metric that matters to the folks that we are working with.
Right. And how you show up and your culture or your philosophy is great in the fact that critical to your success is deep customer understanding. How do you take that thinking and you put it into the start of the funnel when you're talking with people and identifying who needs your services? And so how have you systemized that? Like taking it from the one half of the bow tie to the other side of the bow tie?
I think that is A, that's the $1 million question, but B, when I think about how we are building out our growth team, it's about moving from being lucky to making luck. And the way that we are able to do that, again, through systematization of our growth activities is a number of things. One, understanding who are we working with. So from an ideal customer perspective, or from an ideal customer profile perspective, do we understand the verticals or the horizontals that we play best in? Where do we have experience? Where have we built up the background to be able to be a good partner? We also think about what are we not good at. I think part of the getting out of that founder-led sales trap is understanding that no is part of our toolkit as well. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't support our clients or support prospects by making good referrals and have other partners in the ecosystem. Like that's a wonderful way to show value. But we've been leaning into being able to say no to the stuff that isn't within our core competency.
Right. Okay. So great stuff. And sounds like, you're in a great spot. You're doing that. and that's where you're going. So I want to talk about. It took you a while to get here, as most organizations. It's 7 years before you become an overnight success, right? And it's like, so what are some of these lessons that you've learned around the way to get from there to here?
What I think is often overlooked, but is very, very valuable, is the power of specialization. And I think we might have been able to scale in a different way. And again, we've had incredible growth over our history so far, but it's that courage to specialize that is something that is so undervalued. And if I look back, I'm a typical entrepreneur. I want to do so many different things. I want to have so much impact, and so forcing ourselves to be able to be focused can be a superpower on its own. The other thing that I think is really valuable for a lot of folks is this realization that feedback is gold. When I think back to our first venture, Wellnext, the analytics platform in the health and wellness space, we didn't get enough feedback. And thus, by not getting enough feedback, we built too much. We spent too much time in the internally focused iterative loops, and it meant that we wasted really valuable time. Because at the end of the day, that's our most limited resource is time. Not that you can always raise more money, but there are always more customers. And I think if we can make sure that as entrepreneurs, as business builders, whether or not it's a service business or a product business, being able to get into loops where we are gathering far more feedback, getting real feedback from customers who we trust, there's gold in that. There's real power that I think is often left on the table for many entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you say that. I find that too many organizations are either unwilling to invest in customer understanding, so they don't value it enough, or the other side of it is I think they're scared to hear what the customers have to say. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that understanding your customers is critical to not just survival, but thriving, because you can tighten up what it is that you do. So, Sam, I really like all the things that you've unpacked and talking about how you've started, how you've grown, how you've built a foundation, and how you're using customer feedback and data to inform where you're going next. So just to finish up, is there some critical steps that you're taking for the future that you think are going to drive your success and drive your revenue growth?
Number one is, like we were talking about earlier, IP development as an organization, and owning our IP in a meaningful way that enables us to be able to create long-term growth. To me, that's the ultimate bet on the future. As we see AI change the entire landscape for all business, we know that the way we deliver value is going to change because of AI. The second element in terms of investment that we're making is in people. As I mentioned earlier, our innovation management practice is critical to that. But last year we launched what we call Punchcard Academy, which is our internal leadership development program. And our goal with that is to make sure that every single person in our organization who wishes to do so can invest in leadership and team development skills so that they can be part of the future winning team. I think it's essential because at the end of the day, leadership skills, they are both learned and earned. And if we don't give the opportunity, we can't build those future organizations. And then the third investment is systems. We talked about several of the systems that we're investing in here as an organization. Our growth systems are the ones that we're focusing on right now because I would say that's where we're at our weakest. And it's not that it's impossible. It's just We had the luxury of not having to focus on them before, but in order to scale, we have to build the systems that we can scale on top of, and that's where growth lives. We're at the very keen edge of change in our ecosystem, and I can either harness it or I can be afraid of it, and I choose to be intentional with how we leverage change for the future.
Yeah, well, that's great answer. And you've got strategies and initiatives and vision for how you're going to continue to grow and scale, and that's great stuff. So Sam, in this conversation, you mentioned about how you're leaning more into being a thought leader and getting more information out there, all that sort of stuff. So where can folks find you? What's the best place that they can hear more of your thoughts around the future and digital transformation?
I think probably the best place to start would be on LinkedIn. Folks can follow me there for a lot of my thought leadership around things like digital transformation and building the future of work through very effective teams. And then also we have regular content that we produce through our blog at punchcard.io.
Great stuff. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate all your thoughts and your wisdom, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Steve. It was a pleasure to be here.
On today's show, Sam walked us through how over the past 9 years, Punchcard Systems has built all the foundations that they need to have a very effective, reliable, and predictable revenue factory. They have deep customer understanding, which is one of the first foundations that they need. They have a data model in place. They have their mathematical model in place and their platforms in place in which they can predict and drive growth. They have also figured out how they need to resource their acquisition and resource their retention. It was a great episode unpacking real world in the midst of figuring all these different processes and steps out so that his organization and other organizations can understand the platform they need to be able to go to the next level. So if you like what you heard, go to weareroadmap.com/podcast to download the Revenue Factory Toolkit so you can assess if you have all the different aspects of the platform in place to build your revenue factory and go-to-market system. Also, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes dropping the first and the third Wednesday of every month. I'm your host, Steve Whittington. Thank you for listening, and keep building your revenue factory one brick at a time.